Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tahil Sharma, and I'm the Regional Coordinator for North America at the United Religions Initiative, the world's largest grassroots network of interfaith organizations. We are here dedicated to the work of creating an enduring daily interfaith cooperation, removing and mitigating religiously motivated violence, and creating cultures of peace, justice, and healing for world and all of its beings. It's exciting to have many of you here today representing various cooperation circles or member organizations in our network. And we're really excited to have an important conversation that is kind of a continuation of a call that we had a couple of days ago. As many of us have noted, much of the work that we do in trying to, prevent and eradicate violence, particularly, is related to this idea of our ability to acknowledge the different ways that violence exists. And unfortunately, in the nature of, the history of minority communities of all sorts here in the United States, we acknowledge that particular ethnic, cultural, and religious communities are facing the largest impact of that kind of discrimination, marginalization, and violence. And because of this, in association with particularly the worsening crisis that is taking place right now in the Middle East, in Palestine and Israel, much of the conversation that has become relevant here in North America has been the growing tensions and the growing concerns of anti Semitism and Islamophobia. We thought it would be an important opportunity to center those conversations this week, which is why on Monday we held a conversation about anti Semitism. And today we have the opportunity to be able to talk to some important folks about Islamophobia. We do acknowledge that Islamophobia is not a recent phenomenon in the American ethos. Islamophobia has not been a new phenomenon since the September 11th attacks. The idea of acknowledging and demonizing and dehumanizing the Muslim community has been a phenomenon for quite some time. And we have the opportunity to learn that both from a historical and more complex perspective, but also from the personal experiences of CC members and leaders who are on this call today. So we want to take the opportunity to be able to welcome each of them. As they do their presentations, I'll be sure to share their bios and any information that they'd like to share. And we will have some time after everyone's presentations for questions and answers at the end of the call. So we will be hearing from Marium Mohiuddin. We will be hearing from Sister Moina Shaiq and Sister Fatima Emlemdi. And excuse me if I've mispronounced anyone's names whatsoever. I try my best not to. But these are a wonderful set of people who are coming in from Southern California, the San Francisco Bay Area, and the Midwest, particularly from Ohio, getting to talk about some of the different ways that they have navigated Islamophobia. But Mariam's presentation particularly will be pertaining to this entire conversation and understanding of what Islamophobia is. So with that in mind, Mariam, I'd like to pass it over to you and thank you for taking the time to join us this morning.
I should unmute. You actually said my name perfectly well and fine. I was impressed. It was the first thing that I thought of because my name is butchered so much. But so good morning, everybody. I believe it's good afternoon. I'm the one in Southern California, but I'm really I'm not excited to be here because unfortunately we have to have this conversation, but happy to be here to share any thoughts and answer any questions as I speak. So as Tahil mentioned, I'm here in Southern California. My name is Marium Mohiuddin. I've been working in the Muslim American space for pretty much my whole life since I was a teenager, and I've worked with organizations from like ISNA and MINA and MSA to working for the Muslim Public Affairs Council here in LA. And then also just volunteering my time in different spaces. But in the last 10 to 12 years, I really focused on Muslim-Jewish relations. And after October 7th, as you can imagine, that has taken a lot more care and I can't even think of the right word, but it's just more care needed in these conversations. But one thing though is that since October 7th, my business partner and I, his name is Dr. Ritter, he and I have been doing presentations about Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, not only from like what we've experienced growing up as Americans, but I should also mention that I'm Canadian too. So, and I grew up in Texas. So just adding to the layers of who I am as a Canadian Texas American Muslim. But so we've been doing presentations on this because we thought it was important that people understand the historical context of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Um, as the heel mentioned, it's not something that started 23 years ago after 9/11. It's not something that started from the Gulf Wars. It's been going on basically since the start of Islam. So with that, I'm gonna ask the heel if he can share. So I also asked too, if you have any questions, just to put them in the chat, and then we can, integrate them into the conversation. I don't want this to be just me talking to you about stuff, because there's a lot of information, and I'd love for feedback or thoughts, or and I wish I had done something more of a pop quiz and stuff, but I couldn't. I couldn't find what I was looking for to put it together, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But okay, so the next slide, please. So we're just doing a brief history of Islamophobia. So what is Islamophobia? As next slide. So there's so many different ways of describing it and thinking of it. And there's also many different names. So some people ask me, like, why Islamophobia? Why not anti-Muslim? Why not different words or different thoughts? And a lot of it is because about seven about 2017 or 2000, well, anyways, several years ago, in the aughts, the Muslim American community had come together, and not really come together, and we made a consensus, but it was that more people started using the word Islamophobia, thought it covered more of a basis than anti-Muslim. And I can see both thoughts. And one reason I do like saying Islamophobia is because of the second thing mentioned, is that Islamophobia affects more than just Muslims. It affects a lot of Muslim adjacent groups. So as many of you may know, that after 9/11, one of the first people to be attacked and killed was a Sikh American. So, and then the Sikh community experienced a lot of violence after that, because people thought they were Muslim. I did a presentation once, and the gentleman who was Sikh beside me was talking about that people still come up to him and ask him about Islam. And um, so it's still something that's ongoing. But the main thing to know is that it's an extreme fear and hostility towards Islam and Muslims, and often leads to hate, most times leads to hate. But there is this really strong underlying current in our community and globally, but really in our community. And you've seen it play out in movies where, especially here in LA, when I got to know a lot of the community, a lot of actors here and a lot of the Muslim actors would talk about how the only parts they were getting were being like terrorist number one or terrorist number two. I think many of you can probably name a movie that you've been like, oh yeah, this happened or this happened. And if you look back into the 90s and the movies, you'll see that a lot of the terrorists are wearing keffiyehs, which now people know and understand what this shawl and this symbol is. So if you can imagine what the ideas were that were coming into people's minds then about when they see now a keffiyeh today. Okay, so move on. Next slide. This is a little bit intense, and I understand that. I'm not going to read everything verbatim. You can read the screen, and I'm happy to share these afterwards as well. But the idea is that Islamophobia started basically from the founding of Islam. So once this religion was here, it's been facing not just animosity, but being a target of a lot of hate and persecution. And so at that time, but from the time of that to the death of the prophet, up till 1492-ish, the spread of Islam was very great, right? So it went through, and when it spread across so many nations, and of the known world, as if you could say, so not any of the Americas. But it also was a time while this is all flourishing and happening, Europe is facing the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages. So this idea starts to begin to form, like, who are these people? It's because of where the location of the Middle East, what's now called the Middle East, it was such a big trade route. There were so many people that were going through and understanding, and that's why one of the reasons it flourished so much. But the idea becomes then is that who are these people? So there was this awe of Muslims in the Muslim community or Arabs or any the people, the others from there. But that also began to become a fear. Who are these people? Why are they prospering? Why are we dying? They're not. Because, you know, as you can imagine, the Black Plague is coming through. So there's a lot of things that are happening to people in medieval Europe. So then Islam comes to symbolize terror, devastation, barbarians. And you see this especially played out a lot, like even in pictures. If you see the one that's in the corner there with the blue, like how are thank you, yeah, how are the Muslims depicted, and then how are the Christians depicted, right? The color, the beard, the clothes, the expressions. So this was an ongoing theme, and there's so much artwork you can look into where you'll see this over and over again. So while we had movies, this is what people had back then. And so, and it was just even how people were talked about, described. So then the rise of the Ottoman Empire starts, and the Ottoman Empire lasted for about 600 years. So if you can imagine when it after World War I, how much it dismantled. But so leading up to 1492, I believe Dr. Ritter mentions this a lot in his presentation, that as you may know the saying, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and Ferdinand and Isabella kicked out the Muslims and Jews. So as you're familiar with the Spanish, and many of you may have heard of the Spanish Inquisition. So this was just the persecution and the of Muslims and Jews, and it would, and even if there's a lot, it's pretty brutal. And I was just in Spain this past fall, and one of the cities I visited was Valencia, and they were talking about, like, they pointed out to this church, this basilica in the corner, and they're like, oh yeah, the people were persecuted there, or some of the Inquisition took place there, which was so scary to think of, that like this is where so much death happened, but it's so casually referenced because it was such a turning point in history for the Muslim community too. So at this point now, the Ottoman Empire is growing. And so let me show you a map so you have a better idea. Next slide. So this is showing you just how far and how much the Islamic Empire spread. So this is pre-Ottoman. So it's going, as you can see, it went pretty far. And then the next, and going into Europe. And then the next slide, please. And then it comes back and becomes a little bit smaller with the Ottoman Empire. And this is the how big it got. So it's important to know this, because this is where what we're dealing with a lot today stems from. Okay, I think the next slide also has it too. So now, as the Ottoman Empire is flourishing and theirs for 600 years, as I mentioned, it is defeated defeated in World War I. And then subsequently, it leads to, as we now know, with the colonial state and different, and the whole empire being carved up. I was trying to find a better map, but this one shows a little bit, and it's not in English, I understand that, but it shows that how the countries were divided by different, how the countries were made and divided by other European countries, which territories people took over, right? So the British, the French, the Spanish, the German, the Dutch, where were people, and now to this day, how those communities are actually affecting communities in Europe. So when you look at Islamophobia between America and Islamophobia in Europe, there is a really big difference, because Islamophobia in Europe really comes from the ramifications of what happened here with the colonialism and the countries and the imperialism that was put on, especially with India and Pakistan and in Britain. But okay, so then what happens then in 1922? So everything is dismantled, right? So now you're dealing with, well, that kind of brings us to today. What is Islamophobia today? Next slide. So I know, once again, it's a lot of information, so please take in as you can. There's so many things that have happened, and I could have made this timeline massive, but I had to stop to try and bring it into the 21st century and what we're dealing with now. So I'm a child of the 70s, and so the effect that Islamophobia had on me starts with the Iranian Revolution. I remember how people viewed the Ayatollah, how people viewed that in America. I'm not sure if anybody's a wrestling fan, and if you remember I think they called him the Sheik. He was like this Iranian wrestler who was part of Hulk Hogan's. He was the anti Hulk Hogan gang. If anybody's a wrestler watcher, but this is what my perception was as a child. My dad loved wrestling, so we used to watch it a lot. But that goes into the Afghan Soviet War. I was telling someone that there was this song and that Yusuf Islam, Cat Stevens, now known as Yusuf, had sang called Afghanistan, the land of Islam. And it was during this time because of just the effort America was making back to support Afghanis, right? And then comes the first Gulf War. So this is when I actually moved to America, was during the first Gulf War. I was in junior high, and I remember people would come up to me asking me if I like loved Saddam Hussein and if he was like my uncle or crazy stuff like that. But I'm not Arab, and I didn't even know who he was at that point. I was 12. Um, so this kind of, and then this, of course, there's the Bosnian War, and then 9/11, the big one that really made Islamophobia today and the turning point of what we're experiencing in America. But before I go there, the one thing I do want to mention is Orientalism. Is anybody familiar with Orientalism or that term? You can just put a thumbs up sign if you are, but I think the reactions are open. Yeah, there. So Orientalism is a term that was coined or made by Edward Said, who was a professor. He is Palestinian. He was Palestinian Christian, and so what it refers to emphasizes basically the exoticness and the otherness that the Western perspective of what they called the Orient, which was anything from like North Africa, Middle East on. And so it was viewed as this very like the tropes of sexuality and wisdom, but violence and brutality. Men and women are viewed very differently, right? So you have in this picture, this is the picture that's actually on his book on the cover. And I can imagine there's probably many different editions, but the cover that I have and I've seen traditionally. So it's a young boy and he's naked and he's a snake charmer while these men are watching. So this is the kind of perception that was being made of what was happening in this unknown land, because it was the Ottoman Empire. So people didn't have access in until about World War One. And of course, there's trade and stuff, and people are coming through, but it's just the not understanding this other world. And someone had even asked, like, well, why is the kafia popular? And I was like, and doing research on it, it was talked about how it first came about because of just the extreme heat in the Arab peninsula and using a cloth to shield yourself from the heat, which it's interesting. I see construction workers do a lot. And then growing up in Texas, I saw that a lot. I remember as a kid going, oh, look, they look like Muslims. Because when they had that, they would have like a towel with their hat on or something just to shield from the terrible heat of Texas. So anyways, it in particular, Orientalism, it gave Europeans a lens to the license. It gave Europeans a license to define Islam and Muslims from their perspective. And ignoring that Muslims are not are just are is a that Muslims are not just Arabs, or that Muslims it's a pluralistic religion that spreads across the world, that there isn't a one way to define that this is what a Muslim looks like. But now, and you can see that permeates still today, because if you were to ask someone, well, what does a Muslim look like? I'm sure people will say a hijab wearing woman, a darker colored person with a beard, maybe wearing like a thobe or jilbab, definitely an immigrant. So there's all these different tropes that come through. Of course, women are very oppressed and men reign supreme. cetera, et cetera. And even growing up, as I tried to counter these of just who I am as a Muslim woman, it was always said to, I was told that I was just one of the cool Muslims. So it was okay because I was one of those Muslims. But what I was trying to show is that this is actually how Muslims are. But it was hard. And the pictures here just kind of show you different things that have come up throughout what now we know as like the war on terror, which is what George W. Bush called it after 9/11. The war, and I used it here because I feel like that's the era that we're still in, is the war on terror. So dealing with like the idea of Sharia law and the legislation that came up after that, or even the Ground Zero Mosque and what happened with that and the push against it. I know that I'm mentioning a lot of different things and jargon and words. So if you don't understand a word or something, please ask in the chat. Because I can't see everybody. So I'm just kind of plowing forward, but I do know that I've been saying a lot of different things that maybe might need more explanation. Okay, so after 9/11, everything changed. I was post-college by then, working in the newspaper in Austin. And I still remember, I mean, I think anybody, well, not anybody, but most of us who are Gen X, baby boomers, maybe even, nope, not millennials. No, yeah, maybe millennials, yes, will know where they were that day. I remember my best friend had called me, and it just, that crushing feeling, what's happening, the confusion. And plus, I was in the newsroom as a Muslim and I used to wear hijab. So I could just feel all of this animosity growing because people just didn't know what was happening. Um, okay, next slide. So this is just taken as you will. This is just some information about like what's happening now, right? So there has been a rise of Islamophobia since October 7th, and CARE has documented like receiving it being 180% rise. Now, how much that has persisted or stayed now till now is a little unknown because it's hard to track hate crimes against Muslims. There are several reasons why. So that's why you might see a lot more cases about anti-Semitism and not Islamophobia, because Islamophobia is a harder one for people to, a harder one is not one that's easily reported. And a lot of it is because if you look at the Muslim community, a third is about Black Americans, 2/3 is about immigrants. So, which is changing and evolving now as we're dealing with first and second generation. But with that said, you're talking about two communities with who stereotypically and just generally have a mistrust of government, of police, of reporting structures, or even reporting in general. So that's why the numbers are just so different, because you don't have a solid system that's capturing that. We don't have a Muslim federation in different cities, which is bringing people together to capture information. One thing I talk about is like my mom. So my mom still lives in Texas, in this small town that I grew up in. If anybody's familiar with College Station, or if anybody's an Aggie by chance. And she told me, like, this was a couple years ago, but she told me she gets these periodically, that someone mails her Bibles, and then the Bibles are like highlighted and with sections and stuff. And I was just like, what are you? So we even tried tracking down where the return address was and who was sending it, and we have no idea. They've actually come from different addresses. And the thing is that my mom's never reported it. And it scares me because if that person were to send something else besides a Bible, there wouldn't have been a record of my mom receiving these. And so it may not be taken as seriously. So this just kind of shows you how people just don't report things or instances. I know that anything that happened to me growing up, I never reported it. It just seemed like this is what now Muslims are facing in this country. Okay, so what does Islamophobia look like? Hostility, discrimination, hate crimes, hate speech, a lot of it, go home. I got a lot of that, which I always enjoyed because I was like, to Canada. But my family is actually Pakistani, so I think people really meant that. And then social and political discrimination. And I'll show you a picture of what I was like in college, because the social discrimination is fascinating, because I got gaslit a lot about, no, that's not true, that's not happening, no, you're seeing things, no, they're not treating you this way. I was the editor-in-chief of my school paper at A&M, and so I was a part of the student leader group, and we would meet with the senior vice president of student affairs. And yeah, being the only woman and then Muslim and hijab wearing, it was just ignored. Okay, so next slide. Oh, well, let me explain really quickly, if you can go back. That picture is from Colombia, where there was billboards being put up of people's information who were considered to be anti-Semitic. So this is called doxing. I don't know if anybody has heard this term. What it stands for is, it came from dropping documents, and so now it's called doxing, and it's the idea about revealing people's information online so that people can be attacked. And I know that trolls will freely attack people. I had something happen recently with one of my clients, and I say clients meaning I also am working in communications, and they were an art industry, an art residency, and just one simple post and just got slammed by trolls, which was about incorrect information. So just showing you that there is this massive crowd of people, and it's not necessarily an organized group. There is organization too, but there are people who are just ready to pounce and follow, and follow trends and group mentality and group think. Okay, next slide. The last couple of things is, so I know this is a lot too, this, and once again, I'll share this with people so you can actually just read it, but it's like, how does Islamophobia look today? So media bias, legislation, like we talked about, Sharia law, unequal legal treatment. This comes even to the thing of like different laws that have been coming to put into place, like the Patriot Act, or the Trump's executive order that banned Muslims from entry into the US. There was even the NCR's program that George W. had done. So, and now we're seeing it with resisting of refugees. I was just watching CBS this morning, and it was Tony was at the Republican convention and was asking people, what does Trump mean by who are immigrants or who are refugees that are coming in? And the woman was answering, well, people from the Middle East that are like terrorists, and who and so it was interesting just listening to her, because she was basically feeding into exactly what we're talking about today. That's who people view as the aggressor, and as the fear that we should have in this country. And just kind of from 9/11 on, I mean, the amount of people that, from the Boston bombing to other different attacks, it was always like, which Muslim is out there attacking the world, and people should be scared of Muslim terrorists, when in reality there's a bigger fear and a bigger issue with white supremacy in America than there is of Muslims. The pictures over here to the left, yes, to the left, are just to show you some recent things that have happened about a man allegedly ripping off a teen's hijab, sorry, a woman's hijab. This happened in Arizona University too, during the encampment. One of the women had her hijab taken off. There's some videos you can watch online. The gentleman in the middle is just talking about different texts he's received while at work. Many of you may have heard about the woman in Texas who tried to drown the 3-year-old Palestinian Muslim child, and of course Sharia law. And then the picture at the very bottom is from Colombia, and it's a pro-Palestinian rally. And I put that there because the subtleties of Islamophobia are seen in that too, where, like I mentioned, Muslim adjacent, right? So not all Palestinians are Muslim, and not all the people in this picture are Muslim. But because you're working on something that's considered Islam and Muslims, there becomes this association and attachment to, like, this is not good, this is the other. So as you can, and to keep in mind too, that we're talking about 1400 years of this sentiment be running through European Christian thought and community and civilization, which is what dominates here in America. The last thing I want to share with you is, so this was me in college. Okay. So, like I mentioned, I came to the US in 1989, and and then Islamophobe. I've think I came in 89, and since the day I got here, I've always felt Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hate. It's I I move in the world with it always on, like as something I'm carrying, like a backpack, having to have a shield. It's always just there, and you can sense it and see it. And even I've noticed that even how I present myself in the world, and sometimes how I present myself in meetings or when I'm in a professional setting, I can see that I'm changing and adopting different habits and code switching so that I can easily make it through. And like I won't bring so as I mentioned, I do communications, and I used to work at the Red Cross, and I remember I walked into a blood bank, blood donation center, and saw all of this Easter stickers and decorations, and I just kind of sat there and I was like I'm the director of communications, and this is still happening. Um, yeah, it was just really disheartening for anybody who might be of another faith who walks into that center to donate blood. So these are just pictures of me. The bottom, I used to be, like I mentioned, the editor-in-chief of the school paper, and then traveling, and then one of my best friends, but just what I faced. And man, I wore a hijab at a time where we didn't have many cool hijabs that people do now. But so anyways, just to end this is a quote from Edward Said that just talks about Orientalism. I'd recommend looking into Orientalism if you haven't. It is a very thick book. It is very academic, but you can find like other uh, papers or different things about it. But um, like he said, right, is the other study of the other has a lot to do with the control and dominance of Europe and the West, generally in the Islamic world. And it has persisted because it's based very, very deeply in religious roots, where Islam is seen as almost a kind of competitor of Christianity. And actually, that's something, I just realized I didn't even mention, which is why Islam being the enemy. Well, a lot of it is that if you are a Christian at this time, um, then and you have a religion that comes in that's challenging the notion of who is God, it's going to pose a very big threat, and that's what it did, and it has, and that's where it stays. It has been, and that machine, or that can't think of another word, but just machine of what people are and who people are and what they look like has just continued to grow and grow and grow, and people can't see in past it. And yeah, even to this day, people, if I'm, it's interesting too, when I took off my hijab, the difference that of people and how they spoke and how they treated me within like days, which I was like, you know me. So it has only been a few days, but this is kind of the world that we live in. Okay, I think that's the end of that. I hope I didn't take up too much time. And if you really have any questions, please do put them in the chat or DM me directly. Happy to answer anything. I know there's a lot of information.
Mariam, thank you so much for that presentation. You hit the nail on the head in so many ways, and you got it done exactly in 30 minutes, based on how we were timing it. So that's pretty amazing. But I'm really thankful for bringing in your story, and also just talking about the pervasiveness of Islamophobia. And I think one of the things that you really hit on that I have been personally affected by is this idea of being Muslim adjacent. As a brown man who is Hindu and Sikh, I know for my own beliefs that I am not Muslim, but by the treatment of of how I present myself as a brown man, the assumption of being Middle Eastern Muslim has caused a lot of folks to ask very interesting, odd questions, to being very discriminatory in their behaviors, and to feel also compelled to say like the thing that shouldn't be said. And that's only from the imagination of being someone that is a non-Muslim that is experiencing it.
I'm curious
To be
not to know what the thing is that shouldn't be said, but I'm curious.
There are plenty. I
I
There
know.
is no for that, but I'm really thankful that you really brought that to perspective for folks, because I think it's so important to consider the ripple effect that the nature of these phobias has, the nature that bigotry can really take a hold of when we observe these kinds of tendencies and beliefs in the public sphere. So I'm really thankful for the chance to hear that from you personally, to see you present in this way, and to include that sort of personal story of yourself. I really appreciate it.
May I just
Now
add
I'd like to.
one last thing is that something for everybody to keep in mind is that as we're hearing about a lot of phobia and what's going on in the world, Islamophobia is on the rise and is actually paired with anti-Semitism. So what they've found in different studies is that as one grows, the other grows too. So that is really another more important reason for this conversation, because it's not that one is coming and one is less. No, they actually both rise at the same time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that important, I think, point of clarification. I appreciate it. And now I'd like to pass it on to Moina Shaiq, who is joining us from the Bay Area. She has been involved in a lot of the work of Bay Area interfaith communities and councils there. She used to be involved with the Tri-City Interfaith Council, and I think continues to be involved in a lot of other spaces doing the work of justice. So Moina ji and Fatima ji will be presenting more from personal perspectives and giving some insight about some ways that us as interfaith communities can pay more attention to the ways that we could be uplifting and supporting the Muslim community right now. Moina ji, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And again, thank you, Tahil, for giving me this opportunity to have this important conversation to educate our fellow Americans about how we feel as Muslim amongst them, being a different skin color, wearing a different attire, and just looking different, basically. So, thank you, Mariam. Oh, you laid the groundwork. Very, very powerful and informative presentation. So, thank you so much. I will build off of it by my personal story, and mine is all personal. I started holding Meet a Muslim conversations in 2016. And I will tell you what got me to start that and a little bit about my background also. So I'm also from Pakistani origin. I moved to the United States in 1978 after I got married. Life was good. Life was very good. There was nothing going on the horizon, living a normal life like everybody else, raising my children after I started my family, doing the stuff that most parents do, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, soccer mom, you name it. And just involved in children's lives, and everything was just going fine till 9/11 happened. And that just turned the world around us. And just for your information, I never wore the hijab growing up in Pakistan, but I started wearing it just a little before 9/11. So now, after 9/11, I was visibly a Muslim. I didn't look like Mariam and Fatima. That, people still discriminate based on your color and all this stuff, but hijab has an added layer in there. So I was so scared. My family was scared. I didn't leave the house for 10 days. My husband was, either you take it off or you don't leave the house. We didn't know what to expect from our fellow Americans, from my neighbors. But as I was a mother, I could not just stay home forever. So after 10 days, I started leaving the house slowly and gradually. And thank God, for the most part, being in a big city, a metropolitan area, which is very diverse, I did not firsthand experience any hate, but I could see in people's eyes. And also, I would be second guessing, when I was not treated well at a restaurant, let's say, I would think, oh, the waiter knows that I'm Muslim. That's why I'm not being treated well. Or if I said hello to somebody in passing and they would not respond with a smile or a hello, again, I would say, oh, they know I'm a Muslim. They don't like me. So those kind of feelings were there internally, and that did not, it's not a good feeling where you don't feel belonged. You don't feel that you belong here. You are part of this society. You're part of this community. You are an outsider. That's how I felt, and that was not a good feeling at all. So I was very involved in the community. I've been an activist, an advocate for social justice issues for about 20, I would say 23 years now. So every time after 9/11, anything would happen where a lot of stuff was being perpetrated by people that said that they were Muslims. Although I don't know, Again, I'm not going to go into that area, but they said they were Muslims. So anytime anything happened, I would just pray like all Muslims did. Oh God, I hope it's not a Muslim. Oh God, I hope it's not a Muslim. And it turned out to be a Muslim. So now what? Now I felt like I did something. I had that guilty feeling. And so being an activist in my community, people will look up to me and say, as a Muslim, what are you going to do about it? So I used to hold vigils. I would do, events in my community just to show the community out loud that we are against it. Because I would hear this from people, how come Muslims never condemn any acts of violence? What do you mean we don't condemn? I mean, you don't have to condemn. It should be a give in. A normal person with a good head on their shoulder would never condone violence, period. But they wanted to hear it. But now, how would they hear it? All Muslim organizations, as anything happens, send out a press release immediately. The media never picked it up. So now, how do they project their voice to the bigger community? I mean, I can only address my circle of friends. I can only talk to them. I cannot publicize it throughout the community that, oh, whatever happened is wrong. But that's the perception of people in America, that Muslims are condoning these acts of violence. They don't condemn it. So again, a very bad feeling for us. But again, if I look at it at the same time, some years ago, we found out that Catholic clergy abused boys in the system. How many of my Catholic friends came out and said, oh, this is wrong? I did not hear a single one of them, because it is wrong. Nobody would say it is right. So again, the same notion that why should all Muslims come out to condemn it? Anyways, so in 2015, no, I think in 2012, there were 6 Sikh men, the men who wear turbans, were killed in Wisconsin. The city that I live in has a huge Sikh community. We had a big vigil with thousands of people. When I went there, I said, you know what? Why do we get together after the fact? What are we doing proactively to educate the community so these things don't happen in the community to begin with? And so I kept thinking, but nothing panned out. In 2015, there was a shooting in San Bernardino where a Muslim couple killed, I think, maybe 10 or 12 of their colleagues at a Christmas party. That was the last thing for me. I said, no, I have to get up and do something about it. I need to educate my community. And so I thought of holding Meet a Muslim conversation. I couldn't think of anything better than that. I put a small ad in the paper saying, come meet me as a Muslim. And then I put some questions, bullet points like, why are women oppressed in Islam? What's the difference between Shia and Sunni? What is Sharia law? So some very political questions that were on people's mind at the time, that you can come and ask these questions. I went to a coffee shop that I had picked to hold this event. I thought maybe 5 or 10 people will show up. I will just go. I took my laptop just in case nobody did, and I'll just do my work and come back. There were over 100 people there. It was overwhelming for me in the community that I live in. But that was also very heartwarming to see that my fellow community members are eager to learn about Islam, because there are so many misconceptions, misunderstandings, stereotypes. I mean, Marium covered quite a bit of it in her presentation, that just people looking at us, they have their image in their mind right away, that who am I? I'm a terrorist, basically. So that was the beginning of my Meet a Muslim conversations. And since 2016, I have been doing it. I have traveled throughout the US where I have done these at different places of worship, service groups, you name it, anywhere that people invite me to come. But at the same token, what Mariam said, people tell me, oh, but you are a good Muslim. That's why you are talking like this. I say, no, this is the vast majority of Muslims in the world. America, I think people think that Islam was born right around 9/11. They don't realize that it's a 1400-year-old religion. And if we were the terrorists that we are portrayed as, the world would have been in a chaos for 1400 years. Nobody would have lived peacefully if we as terrorists were amongst them. So they don't realize that this is a peaceful religion, just like any religion or any set of group or any set of people. There are bad apples everywhere. And we do not broad brush based on a few bad apples by putting the whole community in one group and saying, oh, all Muslims are like this, or all Blacks are like this, or all whites are like this. I mean, there's white supremacy. I would never brush all of my white friends that, oh, they're all like this. No, there are a number of them that are, for whatever reason, their minds don't align with the rest of us. So that's the kind of things that we are countering on a daily basis, where people will tell us, go back home. Mariam, you can go back to Canada. I cannot go back to Pakistan because I have nobody there. There's no family there. Where would I go? My kids were born here. I have grandkids. They look like me. My daughter-in-law, she wears the hijab just like I do. And if she is asked to go, where would she go? She was born here. She has no place to go. So people do not realize that we are here, I mean, at least 3 or 4 generations. And we are not new to this country. We will look different forever unless we have start intermarriages, with different races and ethnicities. If we stay within our own, we will look different. We will not be the same. So let me share a few stories with you. One time I was doing a Meet a Muslim conversation in Arizona. It was a small town, but the event was at a big mega church. This old gentleman came walking with a stick, and he came up to the organizers and he said, I'm a Korean War veteran. I'm armed with a knife. I have killed a lot of people during the war, and I will have no issues slashing her throat if she offends me. When I was told that, I was informed that this is what this guy is saying. Should we take him out of here? And I thought about it. At first, my jaw just dropped. My heart started racing. Oh my gosh, he's going to slash my throat if I offend him? Where is the line to offend? Anything can offend him. Anything I say might be offensive to him. But since it was a big, huge church and he was walking with a stick, I didn't feel as threatened because I felt that if he throws a knife at me, I think he's not going to get to me. He will miss me. I'm too far from him. So he stayed during the whole event. He let it go. He did not disrupt it or anything. So it was very peaceful. And I prayed that maybe he took something out of it that would help him understand, maybe not, but that's how it went. Another time in San Francisco at a senior living facility, it was during the time of our previous president, after the Muslim ban and everything. I usually don't go into politics, but because of the Muslim ban, there were some conversations around it. And so this woman, an elderly white woman, comes up to me and says, you cannot talk about our president like this. And I said, why not? She said, you just can't. And I said, I think I have the right if my president is doing things that I do not support and he's not my voice in the world, I'm going to say what is wrong. I'm not going to just stay quiet. But she kept insisting. And I said, I'm as American as you are. I might look different, but I am American. And I have been an American for 45 years. So I think I have the right. And she circles my face and she says, no, but you're wearing this. Meaning that you're wearing a hijab, you're a Muslim woman, you don't have the same right as I have as a white woman. So, and this was in San Francisco, a very progressive city that we think of it as. So these are the kind of mindsets that people still have. And that is very scary because when the Muslim ban came into effect, people didn't know which countries the ban is effective on. Pakistan was not included, but as I said, people didn't know. All they know that Muslims are banned. They don't belong in this country. They're bad people. They need to be out of here. So just that feeling in my heart, going out to even do grocery shopping or anything, it was very uncomfortable because, again, if people are looking at me and they're thinking, she doesn't belong here. She needs to get out of here. Our president has banned her. So again, these kind of feelings are, and you can imagine, I'm an adult, my children and my grandchildren, who are very young right now, having this kind of feeling where they don't feel belonged in their schools, where they're bullied, where they're told to go back home, or where their names are made fun of, or they're associated with, again, like with Saddam Hussein or people like that, or with Taliban. It's very scary and very, very uncomfortable for us to be in that position. So I think with that, I'm going to end my presentation here, but I'm asked by people after I do my events that, although I feel I'm preaching to the choir, but again, I feel even the choir, after being in these presentations, get a better grip of a lot of things, a better understanding. So when they are confronted by their friends or family by issues like, why women are so oppressed in Islam or whatever, they can answer those questions with a, deeper understanding. And I can come to some of those questions if there are questions from you all, and I will definitely answer them. But please look at people who are different than you with a smile. A smile speaks volumes. Just giving a smile make another person feel belonged and feel very, warm inside them that, okay, I'm welcomed here. So do that. Just doing that is a big deal for us. Thank you.
That's a beautiful message to end with, Moina Ji, and I really thank you for sharing a lot of the personal experiences that you had. I cannot imagine what it would feel like to get, the message of being threatened in such a direct and profound way, and to navigate it the way that you did is certainly an example I'm going to take with me in the work that we do here at URI and so many other places. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to pass it over to Fatima Emlemdi, who is a part of the Interfaith Center at Miami University in Ohio. They are also a cooperation circle as a part of the URI network. And it's very exciting to have Fatima here speak in the space for URI North America for the first time. So Fatima, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tahir. Thank you, everybody, Mariam and Moina, for the beautiful presentation. Actually, you covered it all, so I'm just gonna add comment in both of you. And you did a great job, both of you. While when Tahir, when you invited me for this event and I saw that advertisement material about the Islamophobia is deeply connected to centuries of stereotypes and misinformation that have shaped the perception of Islam and Muslims, it really got my attention, and I thought about, those perception, it's really gave a rise to Islamophobia. I've been here for almost 30 years, and I hear and I see a lot of these these stereotypes. I deal with them in everyday life. One of them, I want to name just a few because Mariam just did a great job covering a lot of these misunderstandings and stereotypes. But to a lot of people, they misunderstand the Arab with Muslims. All Muslims are Arab, all Arab is Muslims. It's just the whole picture is not so clear to many people. While the Arab makes less than 15% of Muslims, and Muslims are more than 2 billion in the world. So most of the Muslims are not Arab. They don't speak Arabic. They come from different nationalities, culture, backgrounds, traditions, they speak different languages. The other perception really about, like, I hear a lot about Islam being fundamentally different than Christianity and Judaism. Islam is a religion like Judaism and Christianity. It's not different. It's one of the monotheistic religions. We believe in God. We believe in all the messages and prophets. As a matter of fact, part of being a complete Muslim or part of our complete faith is to believe in all the prophets and their messages. Moses is one of the most mentioned, or the most actually mentioned prophet in the Quran. Another perception that's like, or misunderstanding, is the oppression, or Islam being oppressive to women. Just as Moina said, just they look at Muslim women wearing hijab, and they see the sign of hijab as being a sign of oppression, or women being second class, or treated as second class in Islam. Hijab in Islam is part of a whole complete concept of modesty. Islam calls for modesty for both men and women. Actually, as a matter of fact, men are required to be modest, and were ordered before women to lower their gaze, and to women being like has more to cover or more beauty than men. She was ordered to wear to be modest and to cover her hair. The way people, Muslim women, wear hijab, or the way they cover either the whole face or part of the face, or the way they wear hijab, or it's completely culturally, which is not clear to many people. The people in the desert, they cover the whole body, as Moina mentioned, or I think Mariam, she said, like, it's the fact is the food or culture or clothes is completely environmental. Like people, they eat different things in different places, wear different clothes in different places based on the environment. There is nothing in Islam that women covers the whole body except her eyes. What the different way people wear hijab is completely culturally, and it's very personal choice. But like talking about women, or like just painting the whole women as being oppressed in Islam, it's like, it's not very accurate information. Actually, Islam was a major reform to women, and grant them rights that did not have before. Women are allowed, and were allowed when Islam came, give her the right to initiate, to propose for marriage, initiate divorce, have custody, have her own inheritance, or full control of her finance. Those rights women did not have before, and Islam granted her all these rights, which is comparing to the women in the Western world until like the last 100 years or so, when women had the right to vote, or have custody, or initiate divorce, or have financial freedom, or all these rights. And if you look at the modern world now, when we see the head states in Muslim countries were exceeded, in the Muslim countries were exceeded, way exceeded the women in Western countries. When you look at Turkey or Indonesia or Singapore or Pakistan, where both of you, Mariam and Moina, are from Pakistan, and you know Benazir Bhutto was a prime minister of Pakistan since the 80s. So this is like completely different than the perception we hear in the Western world, that women in Islam are being oppressed because of just what they wear, or another perception about Islam is Muslims hate other people from other religions, hate Christian and Jews, which is not true. There is a very big, the message in Islam is very inclusive. When in the Quran, the words of God refer to the Muslim, to Jews and Christian, always refers to them as being people of the book, as a way of respect, because we acknowledge that Jews and Christians, they have a message, a clear message, accurate message, as the message Muslims have. And Muslims do not hate a Christian or Jews. Islam is a deen of peace, it's a religion of peace, calls for unity, and Islam by itself is very diverse religion. As I said, when Islam first came, it came to the whole world, did not come to just the Arab. And this is how the Islam start to spread all over. The message wasn't just for the Arab, even came to an Arabic prophet, but the message was for all people, was inclusive. The other perception is Muslim is being like cannot live in this like modern world, or being behind or uncivilized, or Muslims are normal, are like they live normal life. Like even some people are more devoted to the religion, and they dedicate like a big portion of their life to like to help and serve. And this is so common. We see it in other religions. We see it in people in Christianity. We see it in Judaism. It's the same with Islam. Some people are more devoted to religion than others. However, the common are the more of the Muslims like me, like Mariam, like Moina, are like normal people. They live everyday life. They have families. They enjoy movies, music. They wear like regular clothes. They enjoy their life. And the other perception about Islam is, which is relates to this, like Muslims live like they live in the medieval centuries and able to adapt into the current world, or the which is like because of some Muslims what they wear, or like does not mean they can't adapt into the new world, or the modern world. When you see some like Muslim countries now, they live like a life, and they are so like civilized, and they like high tech, like Dubai, like in Turkey, Istanbul, like in many other countries, Singapore. It's one of the best places in the world. Not just, and they still practice the religion. They're still Muslims. Islam does not interfere by being like living your life, and like go to school. And the other misperception or about Islam is being violent, which is so common, and so we hear it a lot. Islam is a religion, and Islam came to people around the world. It's all about the person. It's not about the religion. I always explain to my students something like those texts that taken away from their, like the verses from the Quran were taken away from their context, and they are used now by like Islam as being a religion of violence. Those texts came for a certain time and certain places, and they don't work now. Back then, when there wasn't any media and any way of connection with the other world, the Islam was spread through battles. However, it wasn't the first thing when, like the Prophet or his successors, they go and just invade other countries to spread Islam. They send them a letter first, and they say, hey, this is a new religion, and you are protected under the Islamic State if you don't want to convert. But you need to pay jizya, which is a tax. If they refuse, then that battle comes next. And this is the way how the medieval centuries, how back in then 1500 years ago, the world operates. But now it's very at the end, when the Prophet, before he died, in his famous speech said, today I completed your religion, and there is you can't force people to convert. To you, your religion, and to me, mine. So it's a complete declaration of that. People are free. They don't, like Islam or Muslims, don't have the right. And we don't believe as Muslims, and we don't believe in forcing any person or preaching, or like you need to be a Muslim and this is the right religion. No, this is very big, misunderstanding about Islam. Another thing I wanna like just explain it. I'm sure Mariam mentioned that, which is what's the reason of these perceptions or misunderstanding or stereotypes. Mariam mentioned something about the Orientalism, and I want to add to it another thing, which is the colonialism. the colonial time when the Western countries invaded all the Mediterranean area and the Muslim Arab countries, and they took them they brought the European civilization. The Arab and the Muslims in those countries were treated as inferior, and they were perceived as being uncivilized Bedouin. They live in the desert, and they needed the European civilization. And this act was to justify this invasion or taking their countries. This is one of the reasons that I see why the reason of these these stereotypes and this perception. Another thing, the religious war between the Crusaders and during the Crusaders and the Muslim countries, when the Crusaders came to take the Holy Land from the Islamic State. And I think this historical event has contributed to those stereotypes and prejudice. Another very big factor to these stereotypes is the media presentation of the Islam and Muslims. A lot of times the media portray Muslims as being violent and terrorist, extremist. Those negative views, images of Muslims, it's really enhanced those stereotypes and associated Islam with terrorism and being Muslim people as being dangerous. Despite the fact that majority of Muslims condemning such act and such violence. Those people who committed or were part of the September 11 did not belong to, Islam is 1.2 or 3 billion. They do not represent those 1.3 billion. They represent just their own. There is no even country who claims those people. So another reason I see the ignorance of some people and lack of education. A lot of times I see people as victims. They hear and believe what the media, how the media portrays Islam and Muslims, and they don't ask and they don't educate themselves about Islam and about the religion and about Muslims. And this is, it comes to what we do as leaders, as part of the interfaith community. For us, for example, let me talk about me being part of the Islamic community here in Cincinnati. After September, after the election or during the election 2016, by the way, one of the most important factors that fueled the Islamophobia is the political rhetoric from some politicians. And after we see during that election 2015, 2016, we saw very big rise of Islamophobia in Cincinnati area. One of the things we did at the Islamic Center in Cincinnati that we started an event on a program, we call it Meet Your Neighbor. Once a month, we open the mosque doors. We send open invitation to people around local community and regionals to come and visit the mosque. We have the imam give a presentation, and then we have food and we sit around tables and we have a Q&A. People ask questions and we answer those questions. And I think education is very important. A lot of people are victims and a lot of people lack accurate information and knowledge about Islam and Muslims. And it's our obligation as American citizens, happen to be Muslims, we practice the religion at the same time. We are proud American. We participate in the society, we pay tax, we are productive citizens in this country, and we need to we need to educate other people who are they have misunderstanding or misinformation about Islam. I want to share some of the stories about my personal stories about with the Islamophobia. I told you I've been here in America about 29 going to 30 years. And really, as Moina said, when I first came, people were so nice. Actually, when they hear my accent and being a brown person, it's just so exciting to many people. They want to ask where I am from and the food I eat and a lot of things. And I was happy to share my life with other people. I really did not experience real discrimination until not even September 11, until the election 2015 and 2016. One of my kids was riding the bus going to school, and the kid behind him wrote in his back and his hoodie, Osama bin Laden. My son did not know what's in his back. He just went to school until one of his close friends told him, like, there is something in your hoodie. You have to flip it upside down. It's very bad. So he saw what's written. He did not do anything until he came home. Of course, he was a kid, 12 years old, did not know what to do. I was mad, and I went to school the other day and I met with the principal, and I said, he has to take an action. He has to make it a learning lesson for others. But he did not do anything. He said, no, the kid who did this, he will be like, he will face punishment or consequences. But other than that, I can't do anything. Being a conservative society, majority white school, and where I live, it's like 90% conservative white Christian American. He did not wanna like oppose or like bring up something confrontational, as he thinks, to the public or to people attention. However, and now I look back and I think about it, and I regret I did not take more like progressive action or take an action about that, and like talk to the district or. But this is one of the things that happen. I teach my kids. I tell them like you don't shuffle it in people's face. You don't like, hey, I am Muslim, but you want to show people by example. You're gonna walk the talk. You're gonna be a good example, so people, if they have misperception or understanding about Islam, they can see it in your behavior and attitude, how Muslims can be. So I push them so hard in their school and out of school to be leaders. So my son is like, and my daughter, both of them, like my son was the student body president for UC, 55,000 students. My daughter at Miami students was the MAP of big organization president too. It's what I mean. What I'm trying to say, it's through like empowering my kids by being leaders with their values. This is the way, like setting an example and show a different image of Muslims and people. If they have like a wrong idea or an image about Muslims and Islam, they can like say, hey, those are normal people like us. Those are American kids. They just thrive to be the best, and they try to make a better life and better future for themselves, and make the world a better place for everybody. So this is what I have to share with you, and I'm sorry if I took a lot of time, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Fatima ji. It's very helpful to sort of hear your reiteration of a lot of the negative perceptions, the developing stereotypes and misunderstandings, and to also hear some of the personal stories that you had to share of what you and your kids had to experience. Is a part of the common story of, I think, many Muslim Americans, of many people who are Muslim adjacent as well. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that. I want to take a round again to thank Mariam, Moina ji, and you, Fatima, for presenting this morning and afternoon for others, depending on their time zone. We have about 10 minutes or so, and maybe a couple minutes after, based on our speakers' availability, to help just answer some questions or have a bit of conversation about what people are thinking about right now, because I know that there's just so much information that was presented. And thankfully, once this call ends, I'll be sure to share this the slides that Mariam has provided with you all so that you have access to some of that information. But I'd love to turn it over to the audience. Let me make sure I change the settings so that you can mute yourselves. There you go. And you should be able to, yeah, please ask any questions if you'd like to raise your hand, either through the reactions or by unmuting yourselves. And if you're not able to speak up, you can, of course, also ask questions in the chat. I should have made that clear earlier. Mariam, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a question for everybody. Is that what Islamophobia have you seen, or are there things that you've wondered? Does this fall under that, or just different? Like I can name one from a friend who is a professor and a doctor, and had posted a simple thing about raising money for children, and then since then has been harassed and doxxed. So yeah, I mean, we've been seeing it on the academic level of what people can share or not share, because then they're running into certain risks and stuff.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, I guess a kind of thought that I have about, the question that you're posing, Mariam, is, I guess, what is the line between what we understand as Islamophobia from the definitions you presented
Mhm.
versus what could be, I think, valid need of conversation within a community or between communities about a valid criticism. Um, because sometimes I know that those lines can be very thin or very blurred out because
Mhm.
people are observing something they don't understand, or they're noting that there's a specific concern that may be coming from a specific community, and people don't know how to navigate the conversation with the right language, so they may end up saying something that is Islamophobic or bigoted, instead of actually realizing that there's a thin line of how you can engage a conversation with the community that may be experiencing a unique problem.
Yeah, I think you're right about the idea of going up to someone and asking them. Just
Mhm,
if you told someone that I don't know, can you please help me? Like I
mhm,
highly doubt someone's gonna be like get mad at you and tell you to go away or something. And that really is one of the best ways to learn, is just privately. Google is a very powerful force. So just you can use AI if you want to and be like, talk to me about Islam. I don't know what it would say, but that'd be kind of interesting to see what it turns out. But yeah, no, I also think there's a question about Islamophobia like within groups. Like I had to really work on the anti-Semitism that was in me about 13 years ago, before I did New Ground, and like things that I was just kind of like hearing here and there, and how it was impacting me so much that it became like little things. I'm like, oh, but like, they're blah blah blah. And so like, yeah, I think there's another conversation for Islamophobia within the groups too.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I think to that point you made earlier in your presentation, bigotry and xenophobia across communities really travels together and it grows together. Whatever is happening to one community, it has a ripple effect on many other communities.
Yeah.
That's been a historic reality, and it's one that we're observing even now with what's developing in sort of the worsening crisis in Palestine and Israel. So we have to really acknowledge the nature of how even international issues, when we assume that they're thousands of miles away, don't have an impact on certain diaspora communities. They absolutely do. And if you are adjacent to those communities, it's going to impact you too.
Yeah. So I'm curious if anybody's seen the Ten Commandments rule that's going around about placing it in the classroom, I think, right? Does anybody see how that might be Islamophobic?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that is sort of like an act of religious violence towards anyone that is not Christian. So yes, Islamophobic, but also, you know, anti other religions that might have that belief as well. And I'm not trying to sound like all lives matter kind of situation, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to see like the point of like, you know, being a person that does not believe in Christianity, for example, that will feel anti to them as well.
Yeah.
I have something to add to this, to Mariam being a community leader. So how we fight this, and this is something started a new phenomenon, something hanging the Ten Commandments in the school, which is like with all the respect to all the religions. But I think the way we do it is us being Muslims, or Islam is built like practices are built on the Ten Commandments. And the way to fight, instead of talking against this, finding how we are similar in this. So how Islam relates to the Ten Commandments, whatever the Islam practices, and like all these instructions, don't kill, don't steal, don't, be nice to your parents, all in Islam. We believe in that. It's built on that. So I think highlighting like how these relate to the Islamic tradition and practices, this is a way to bring people attention to we are not different, we have more in common than we are different. What do you think?
Yes, no, I agree. And I also think, though, that there's becoming a dominance of, so they call it, there's a big term of Judeo-Christian, which I don't like this term, but like the Abrahamic religions, I feel like have to also be very aware of what's being put in different places because of another religion that might be smaller and that might not have the strongest voice, because the Ten Commandments may be part of our faith, but not everybody's. There's a great documentary on Netflix about Satanism, and it's a group that's going around trying to establish the Church of Satan, and not really, but the point is that if you can have, they're trying to counteract a lot of the Christian laws that are coming into place. And one thing that they revealed in the documentary was that a lot of schools or a lot of buildings have 10 Commandments statues, or statues, because of the movie The Ten Commandments, that it was a marketing thing back then. And so I don't know who the distributor is, like Warner Brothers or MGM, whomever, like they did this whole public relations thing to get these 10 Commandments put everywhere as part of this thing. And then it just stayed, and people now view it as like, no, this is why, because of God's word and stuff. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
No. No,
I think Margaret, I wanted to say something.
Oh, I would say I've had these discussions with educators. So the tenet, the teaching curriculum piece is, so of course, yes, if you can't teach about certain subjects without teaching about world religions. So yes, we're going to teach the tenets of Islam. We're going to teach the tenets of Hinduism, so let's compare and contrast. So that can be done. But to put one, for me to say this is the one, is indoctrination. And that is not what we're doing. So I've prepared all this, like all the yamas and niyamas from Hinduism and all the, all different kinds of tenets, and have people look at similarities and differences. That's very doable.
You're good. It's just someone's background noise. So
I was gonna say, I just heard this joke on I think it was Stephen Colbert or somebody, maybe John Oliver, that they were talking about like, why would the 10 Commandments be, they're like, are the 10 Commandments really needed for a second grade classroom? Does a second grader need to know not to covet his neighbor's wife, or does he need to know how to share his blocks? And I thought that was actually just really kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't want to teach about adultery to first graders.
Right, exactly.
Right. And It's some comments that are being made in the chat. We would be better displaying the universal golden rule in schools and beyond as a point of comparative religion and pluralism. Totally agree, Biff. And also ties into the discourse around Christian privilege and Christian nationalism,
Mm.
which is tying into the point that you're making, Mariam, about sort of the usage of the Judeo-Christian narrative and this idea of its precedent and its greatness over other
Yeah.
communities and traditions, which I think it does put a lot of people at tension, at odds with the ability to be able to practice or express their own faith freely, while also being in a space where you can neutrally discuss it and not feel like you're being demeaned for being something different.
Mm-hmm.
Asu, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Tahil. I really appreciate this conversation. My husband is Muslim, so I also reflecting on the intersection with LGBT Muslims. So thank you so much for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vasu, for centering that. And we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with our colleague Muhammad Jibril, who spoke about the intersectional work that he did in public health with LGBTQ Muslims. This idea that the Muslim community is also a monolith that only has certain perceived views and understandings of the world is also very problematic in this idea of Islamophobia. To assume that there is no existence of queer or trans Muslims is one example of that, because it actually denies and dismisses the ability for folks who are Muslim, who happen to have different sexual and gender backgrounds, to be able to exist as full human beings and to actually be practicing Muslims and not just coming from Muslim homes. So those are some little things that we need to pay attention to. It's not just about the general beliefs at the 30,000 foot level, it's about the lived experiences of individuals and how they navigate it in their own lives. And being mindful of the time, I want to give just the opportunity to thank Marium Mohiuddin, Fatima, for your time and your commitment to sharing your stories and to really educate people about this in some very significant ways. We are very mindful that this work is far from over, and that we're learning that this work is not done, just as a response to violence and injustice constantly. This should be a part of our daily routine to remember that we are engaged with different communities of different backgrounds, and we have the responsibility to learn about them in the best light possible so that we can be their advocates in spaces where they're not represented. We can never be an ambassador for another faith tradition or community, but we can definitely be their accomplices for justice. So thank you so much for giving us the time, for sharing that wisdom, your stories, and allowing us to be able to engage you in this conversation. And thank you all for whoever was able to make it. I'm very glad that you all were interested in the conversation, and we hope to continue this work in the region going forward. We can only make this possible with your feedback and your support. So thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.